to week 4 of Reclaim Your Life. If this is your first time, I encourage you to go online and check out the other 3 weeks. I guarantee it will change your life or change the lives of the people around you. But we are in this process of trying to reclaim what the enemy is trying to take from us. We try to reclaim what we think has been garbage in our life and letting Christ do something great with it. When I was first getting into ministry, one of the things you do, especially if you're going to youth ministry, it's like this thing, is that you go to camps and you be on rec staff. And if you've experienced that, it's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of frustration, and it's just a whole range of emotions dealing with teenagers. But when I was on rec staff, we had other rec staff, and there was a guy that I met that I became friends with, and he was this real tall, skinny guy, real quiet, sometimes a little awkward, and we became friends, and I helped him bloom. I helped him get some confidence about himself, and I like to say that a little bit of part of his success today is because of me. But in his life, we begin to know that we're living life together, and we would, do camp, and then we all stayed in cabins, right? And so there was a guy's cabin and a girl's cabin, and every night, right before we turned the lights out, he always did the same thing. Before we'd all finally go to sleep and settle down, he would go to the door, he would check the lock, look out the window, check the lock again, and look out the window again, and then he would go to bed. The same thing every single night. And we weren't that close yet, and so I didn't want to embarrass him, right? I didn't want him to go, "What are you doing, man?" and to draw attention to it and embarrass him. But then we kept being friends, and then we ended up at the same college, and we ended up being roommates. And so it was just the two of us in a room. And surely enough, it was still happening. Right before we go to bed, we read each other bedtime story, tuck each other in, and then that didn't really happen. At least I won't tell, really. But then he would go to the door. At this time, we had a peephole because it was on a hallway, and he would check the lock, look in the peephole, check the lock, look in the peephole, and then go to bed. Now that we were roommates, I said, "Why do you do that? Why every night, it's religiously you do this? I'm kind of concerned for you." And he's like, "Honestly, I don't really know." You see, he grew up in a family. His father was a police officer and then also an investigator, right? And it's not so much, his dad was a great person who instilled confidence in his kids, but he also helped his kids understand the value of what's precious and how there's things that you can do to help block out things that are dangerous from the things that are precious. And so there is an obvious correlation with closing the door and lock it. Not that you can completely stop any destruction that can come in. If something wants to come in bad enough, it'll come. But you try to slow it down at least so you can try to prepare. And so there was a sense of calm over himself that at least when he's asleep, he knows there's a layer of protection to protect what is good, protect from outside influences, right? So there's an obvious physical protection that's easy to understand, an apparent need to intervene from value being stolen. If you've ever been robbed, if your vehicle has ever been stolen, which is, that's first time for me. That's happened in the past couple of weeks, months really now. It feels like it was last week, but it was a month ago now. But, if you've ever had your house broken into, all of a sudden you have this thing in the back of your mind of maybe I should check. Maybe I should check that lock one more time. I want to hear that honk, on the door locks as I'm walking into the store, because you know what it feels like to have value being stolen from you. One place where we should be protecting just the same is our mind. The thoughts that come into our head, the mental occupation, we should be doing the same way because this mind is precious. It is a temple of Christ, a temple of God. We might not realize it, but you have a door and lock to your mind. You have an ability to choose what occupies and what doesn't. You don't realize it because it's been a long time since you've closed that door. It's been a long time since you have checked what thoughts are coming in and leaving your mind. And sometimes none of them leave. They just are filling you up, filling you up, filling you up. Our minds can become a rager of thoughts that ends up wrecking us physically and socially and at our jobs in every form and fashion, our relationships. And it'll even pour out of our bodies, pour out of us. And just like a rager happens at a house, usually what's going to happen next is they're going to move on to the next house, the next house, right? So the rager that's happening here of thoughts will end up affecting the others around you. It has the potential to destroy not just you, but others. So in the process of reclaiming your life, we must identify what thoughts have taken up residence and do not belong. Not only are they living rent-free, consuming everything, these thoughts are influencing everything in your mind to accept destruction. Thoughts are produced by what our minds are exposed to. What occupies your mind is vital to your human condition. And we tend to devalue that. So my hope today, after talking with you guys, my hope is that you will start getting real picky of who you let and what you let into your mind. That you will begin to decide, this place is too valuable just to let anybody in, let any old thought in. I'm going to get real picky about it. Paul actually addresses this in his letter in Colossians. It says in Colossians 3:15 through 17, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were all called to peace. And be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." Reclaiming your life, the garbage that is out there, letting God take your past and what you thought was just going to be trash forever, what the world was telling you to be trash forever, before you can actually let God reclaim all that, it's more of a mental battle than you think. I'm not saying this is a mind over matter situation. You can't will God's blessings into your life. That's a whole nother gospel and a whole nother wrong theology that we're not going to talk about right now. That's a whole thing. But what I am saying, it all begins up here. It all starts up here. And it's really hard to do what you know is right when your thoughts are congested with what's wrong. What happens in your mind really matters. That's why they call it a train of thought. Is it easy to get off a train when it starts moving? No. It's really hard to derail a train. And often when you're in a train and it's going fast, if you derail it too fast, you end up in destruction. Or you'll end up in a place you don't want to be. That's why if you've been to New York, the subway system is kind of terrifying. Okay? Because if you get on the wrong subway, it's at least an hour before you can get back to where you want to be. When Tanner and Jamie were getting married, they wanted to get married in Brooklyn. So we went to New York, and we were having to use the subway system, right? And it was just a handful of us, and it was time for the wedding, and we had a spot picked out. And so we separated. She put her wedding dress on. He put his tux on. I was looking quite dapper myself. And we head down to the subway. And I remember thinking, I know he's focused on getting married. Please do not get distracted and get on the wrong subway. It would be terrible that the bride gets there and the groom is not. That is not a good look. It would not make her feel good. So I was like, I double-checked like 6 times. Is this the right subway? And so we made sure to get off the right stop. I was trying to pump him up and encourage him, and also kind of distracted because I was making sure we get off the right stop, because that would be awful. If you get on the wrong train, you will end up where you don't want to be. And it will be hard to get off that line of thinking. The famous philosopher from the 1800s, Ralph Waldo Emerson, puts it like this: sow a thought and you reap an action. Sow an act and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character. Sow a character and you reap a destiny. So if we're putting this in the same frame of context, if you only reap negative thoughts, you will end up in a destiny of negativity. If all you're taking in is negative, all you're going to have to put out is negative. You got to put something else in there. You ever wonder why you're flipping through your phone or you're on Facebook, on your computer, and you all of a sudden see an ad of something that you were just thinking about and it freaks you out? Does that happen to you yet? You're like, how do they know? Are they listening? I want a Big Mac. That kind of thing. How do they know? Truth is, they're just tracking what you're already doing. In our house, on the same IP address and the whole technological thing, if you don't understand it, it's okay. But Hannah will search something on her phone, and then all of a sudden I'll get an ad on my phone. I'm like, how in the world did leggings get on as an advertisement to me? I would not look good in leggings. At least I'll try some on. Y'all tell me later. But I would not look good. How is this possible? It kind of freaks you out. It's because you are making a track. They're tracking you of what you do, what you're thinking. The same thing happens in our minds. If you are constantly thinking about something, what you're doing is you are creating grooves in your mind that makes it easier to go back to that thought. So if you're constantly making negative grooves, it's going to be a lot easier to always go back to negativity, the negative things in your life. If you think on something, it is conditioning your mind for that specific topic, and you can find yourself in this mental loop. It feels like, and I know you've been there, it feels like a hamster wheel. You feel like, I'm trying to get out of this thought, but it seems like I can never get out of it, right? Or you lay your head down at night, and you're like, oh, finally rest, and then you see the train going by in your head, and you jump it on, and then all of a sudden you're in this endless loop that you can never get off of this train, and you're just going to die because you're never going to go to sleep again because you can't go to sleep. You end in this like a prison of a loop of thought. Today, I want you to understand that even though that feels impossible, Jesus can break the cycle. He can take you out of that loop. He can stop the loop. He can erase the loop. And this might be a life-changing paradigm for you, but I want you to listen to it closely. You don't need to open the door for every thought that comes your way. You don't have to take it in. You actually get to choose. Just because it's knocking doesn't mean you got to let it into the house of your mind. You can choose which thoughts take up domain. Imagine if we treated our house like we treat our minds. Any Joe Schmo can come up to you and says, hey, I want to check out your house. Well, come on in. Everybody else is here. Do you imagine the destruction? What would be stolen? How you would be devalued? It wouldn't be a comfortable place anymore. Nobody would even want to be in your house after a while because it's so destroyed. Hard to be around. Some thoughts you can even lock out for good. There are some things that keep knocking on your door, and you can latch the lock and say, nope, no more. It's possible. Just the same as, and it's as easy as this, if you're on your laptop or computer and you're scrolling through the internet and you see something you don't like, there's this magical thing called a power button. Turn it off. Close the laptop. You don't have to sit there and consume it. These magical devices that we have, you're sitting there scrolling through social media. You're looking at people's highlight reels, and you're wondering, why don't I have what they have? And it's making you feel terrible about yourself. Again, magical. You can actually turn it off. Did you know that? The phone company doesn't want you to know that, but you can actually turn your phone off. You can close an app. You can turn it off to the point where it doesn't operate anymore, and it's just a brick, and you can put it down, and it doesn't affect your life anymore. It's that easy. If you're watching something on TV, change the channel, turn it off. If you are going to a place that you know that's going to cause you to go down a bad path, don't go there. I know that's revolutionary, guys. You're like, there's options? I can go other places? If there's a place that you know that will serve up your addiction every time, don't go to that place. If there is a group of people that does nothing but gossip and you always bring you down, go to different people. There's more people out there. Go to different places, but shut it down. Because here's the truth. You cannot delete a thought. Once you let a thought in, it's there. You might, over time, be able to forget about it, but something's going to remind you. That thought is going to affect you because it happened. But here's the thing. You can't delete it, but you can replace it. was something new. And that's what God wants us to do. It says in 2 Corinthians 10:5, we demolish arguments in every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. When you accepted Christ as your Savior, and if you haven't yet, that's okay, but this is what happens. This is what it feels, the way it feels. When you accepted Christ, Jesus didn't just sneak into your heart. No. It was a hostile takeover. He came crashing in. He looked at it and said, you are too valuable. I'm taking that palace back. He went in and ripped the enemy's hands, clutches off of you. That's why they say, and every person that's ever accepted Christ, they always tell me this. When I see him for the first time, they go, I don't know what it was, but when I accepted Christ, like 1,000 pounds lifted off my shoulder. Because that's Jesus coming in and ripping away those thoughts, those negativity, those lies about them that the enemy wanted me, that was dragging them down. Jesus came in and crashed through it, took it away, weight lifted off. He is too powerful and too committed to you. He will not ignore the thoughts that you bring to him. When you bring a thought to Jesus and you say, I can't handle this one, he doesn't go, oh, I'll get to it. Oh, there's in good time. He grabs it by the neck, puts it in a chokehold, slams it on the ground, and kicks it out the door. Because it doesn't belong in that temple. It does not belong there. It all becomes obedient to Jesus' perfect will. You do not have to let every thought through the door. After you lock it out, Jesus will bounce it out. He removes it. You get to say to these thoughts, you are not welcome in my headspace. This temple is under new management. It was bought with a price and sealed by the Holy Spirit. No room, space, vacancy for negative thoughts. Seats taken. Sometimes I have to tell Satan that. Sometimes I'm not so eloquent. I don't even know how to identify it, but I said, Satan, seats taken. You are not welcome here. It is freeing to be able to have that command over him. Through Jesus, you have that power. And if you've never done that before, do it. I guarantee you it will make you feel good. At some point in your life, you've all done this. If you know Christ, you've accepted Christ, you've had these moments where you have let Jesus come in and kick out those thoughts, those negative things. It probably happened right now. When I was amping up, you were feeling something rise up inside of you. And that's great. That's good that happened. But it's momentary. You have to do it over and over again because the thoughts are going to come back. But how did that happen? How did that rise up inside? How did you get excited? I know Hannah got excited. She was, yeah, amen. She felt that. Worship. Yeah. That was all because of worship. That's how powerful it can be. When you are exalting your Savior, what you're doing is you are proclaiming the truth over you and over your life. And when you proclaim that truth that's been prophesied way before you were ever even thought of, when you proclaim that, the Holy Spirit begins to rise up inside of you and acknowledging that truth, saying, yes, he doesn't belong here. Those negative thoughts are not true about you. The lies that they have said and you have absorbed and taken in, those are not here. They should not belong. Kick them out, Lord. You began to, even when I was probably saying this, thoughts and worries that you had this morning, whatever you picked your head off the pillow and whatever you begin to worry about, those thoughts probably try to come into your head right now. You begin to kick them out. You begin to clean house, evicting those negative thoughts. Because I believe it's impossible to worry and worship at the same time. When you are truly worshiping, that means God only. I don't care what else is happening in my life right now or how bad it looks or how good it looks. It's all God right now. When you are truly worshiping, he is so amazing and so powerful, and there's so much to him. There's not any space for anything else. There's not an opportunity for anything else to occupy. But thoughts are going to come back. You got to do it again tomorrow. There are thoughts that caught in your mind when you were a teenager. Somebody tried to bring you down. You still think about those things, even as an adult. They're going to come back. But you have to remind yourself who your life belongs to, who paid the ultimate price for you, who authorized you to make evictions on his behalf in your mind. In Philippians 4:8-9, it says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you." What Paul is telling us, you don't have to make some elusive journey to find peace. I hate to break it. I'm sure y'all love the book and the movie, but you don't have to eat, pray, love around the world to find peace, to find your value. You don't have to do that. It's as easy as the power of worship and meditation, that where God is readily available anywhere. You don't have to go to a closet at home, but that's good to do. If you have a prayer closet, awesome. You have a place you devote to God. But you could be your desk at work. You could be on, well, I wouldn't recommend this on a drive. Wait till you stop. But any moment, you could close your eyes, and it's you and God alone. And you begin to worship and meditate on him. And when you do that, the God of peace, it's that simple, will be right there, giving you sustenance in that moment. You get to slam the door of your mind on the things of destruction and start opening your mind to the things of God. You are inviting God, the Creator, who made peace, who is love, to be with you and dwell inside of you. There is a power, so much power in living a life of worship. It's winning the battle of your mind's occupation, because it will change you, and it will affect and shift your life in ways you never thought possible. When I began to travel, when I was younger, I didn't travel a lot. I didn't get on a lot of planes. But when I met Hannah, we started making trips and doing cool stuff. And I'm a good old boy from Texas, so I always had a little knife on me. It's just, if you got to be prepared, you got to have a little knife, right? And so it's just second nature. It's like your wallet, your keys, knife. And so when we would go to get on airplanes, guess what? I lost a lot. Knives, right? They never failed, no matter what it was shrouded in. There was even one time I had a keychain that had a little tiny knife, a little bottle opener. I mean, just about that long, but it was inside a piece of metal. They found it. They found it. They sniffed it out. But what they're doing is good, because they're going, I don't know who you are, but what behind me is a precious operation. I don't know if you have ill intent, but you can't take that in. I'm not going to let you use that, if you were intending to, as destruction in here. The TSA is very good about it. They're like, you're not coming through. They tell you nowadays, it's get on the dot. Don't move. Get on the dot. We're the boss of this place. We're the ones that get to decide who goes in and out on the dot. I kind of like that now, because of the whole social distancing thing. Now it's at stores. It makes the line look longer, but it gives you some space, right? And I'm a big guy. I like room, to the point now when somebody's getting off their dot, I'm like, get on your dot. This is my dot. It's your dot. I don't care how cute your kid is. Get on the dot, I like that, but that's just me. Might not be you. But you get to tell. You get to be the boss of your mind. You get to be the TSA of your mind. And that's how I want you to operate. When those thoughts come in, you tell that thought, get on the dot. Before you enter in this mind, get on that dot. I need to check things out. This is my place, my rules. There's a king who reigns here, and he has a way of doing things, and you might not be invited. That's right. Instead of letting the world or enemy fill your mind space, filling it with garbage wrapped in a little bit of truth, something of value. See, that's the thing when it comes to some things of value. If it's shrouded and covered in trash, it only looks like trash. You know that junk drawer you have? Everybody has one. I know you got it. That junk drawer, there's always something that's valuable. You need that one thing. And then you go and you open the junk drawer and you never see it because it's covered in other garbage. You have to sift through and pull things out to find that thing of value. You can let trash and garbage so much into your life and into your mind, you forget just how valuable you are. And you got to pull through that. You got to sift through the trash. Here's the formula. Here is your TSA question. You ask anything that comes to the door, or as you sift through the garbage in your mind, does this thought glorify God? Get on that dot. Do you glorify God? Is that something that's I want you to interview it. I want you to pull it in. And if you have to, take it into the interrogation room. I want you to slam a chair down. Sit down, thought. Put a light over its head. Don't just be good cop, be bad cop, bad cop. Really give it to him. And it's like, I'm looking at you, and you kind of smell like worry. I don't know. He looks like you're all about shame. I don't know about you. You kind of reek of lust. Man, you seem to just be all about regret. I don't know if I should let you in. Man, you are so sweaty. You are drenched in insecurity. You don't glorify God. Therefore, you're not coming in. Get off the dot and get out. Get out of my house. Shut that door, lock it. This house is already full. And if it doesn't leave, hit that little red button under the table. Then Jesus will come in and bring out the mental terrorist that's trying to crash in on your party. He will take it out. He'll deal with it. This house is already full. I choose to fill it with praise, love, thankfulness, generosity, and purpose. It shouldn't even be a matter of can it occupy? It should be, there's not a seat for it. There's not enough space in here for you. I filled it with the things of God, the things that glorify His name. So even if I wanted to let you in, I can't. Jesus has already bounced you. No seat to offer. Because the thoughts you hold on to determines the future you'll head to. There's a story of a pitcher, and the pitcher, it's a big game, it's tied up, and the pitcher, he's kind of struggling, and the big bad home run hitter is coming up to the plate. And so the coach comes out, and he goes, man, we know where his sweet spot is. That's inside. Whatever you do, don't throw it inside. You could throw it anywhere. Just don't throw it inside. And so the pitcher's thinking, okay, you got it, coach. And he goes, don't throw it inside. Don't throw it inside. Don't throw it inside. He takes the signal, don't throw it inside. Don't throw it inside. He's looking at the spot. Don't throw it there. Don't throw it inside. Don't do that. And he winds up, he throws. Where do you think he throws it? Inside. Hits it out of the park. They lose the game. But because that's all he thought about, that's where he threw it. If all you think about is where you're going to mess up, where are you going to end up? In the place where you're going to mess up. If you're constantly thinking about that, it will consume you. If you're constantly thinking about, why was I not invited? You're going to end up in a place of loneliness. If you're constantly scrolling through social media thinking about, what am I missing? Why wasn't I invited? What are they doing that I don't have? Jealous and envy, you'll end up with that. If you constantly focus on your mistakes and you don't take forgiveness, you don't let God take that out of you, you're constantly focused on it, you're going to end up in a place of shame. If you're always thinking about, what do they think about me? When they look at me, what do they see? What are my problems? You will end up in a place of lack of value. You will end up spiraling. You'll lose an engine, you'll lose a wing, and you might still be in the plane, and at some point you were flying, but now you're going down. You can't stop it. Too often, we just stay in the plane, and we let it take us down. Get out of the plane. It's taking you to destruction. Those thoughts, that train is taking you to destruction. So jump out of it. Get out of that vehicle, whatever it takes. You are too precious and too valuable to go down like that. You were bought with the biggest price tag this world has ever known. Too valuable. You might be surrounded by garbage, but that doesn't mean you are. You got to sift through. You got to get it all out. So when we start doing this, when we start this process of beginning to declutter our minds, getting the garbage out, stop believing the lies, what can we expect? How is it going to change things? And how do we know we are on the right track? There's 4 things I'm going to tell you real quick. Number 1, identity. Identity is the first thing that you're going to see. In Jeremiah 1:5, he's interpreting from God. He's a prophet. It says, God telling Jeremiah, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Jeremiah struggled with his identity because he was just a young boy, and he says, surely not me. I can't be good enough. I can't be valuable enough. God's the one that sets value, not you. We do the same things to ourselves. If you truly understood your value, because there's that time when you first had Christ, the encounter with Christ, the weight's lifted off, and you're like, I get it, I'm valued, the creator of the universe wants me. Then all those other thoughts start to begin to creep in, and you let them in the door. You begin to go, maybe I'm not that valuable. You know, maybe I'm valuable to the point where God will take care of this serious problem, but I feel like I got this one taken care of and under control. It would give, if you knew your true value, it'd give you a pride of ownership over your mind and over your body. And we know our value because it's stated. In 1 Peter 2:9, it says, but you are chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. We jump over to Galatians 4:7. It says, so you are no longer a slave, but God's child. And since you are his child, God has made you also an heir. You are a royal priesthood, God's special possession. And royalty, I understand in world terms, implies smugness, but this kingdom is not about looking others down. It's about lifting others up to increase the royal family, the kingdom. Not ruling by fear, but ruling by love. You are way more valuable than you know. You are chosen. You get that. You. I'm not talking about the person next to you or the person that you see, walking. No, you. You are his chosen people. You are his special possession. You are an heir to the king. So start treating your mind as the royal palace it's meant to be. The next thing is humanity. It's going to affect how you operate with others. You might think that you've had the right thoughts. You're letting the right thoughts occupy your mind. But if it's not has changed your actions, those thoughts are only guests. They come and go. If they're truly occupying your mind, you can't help but to change your output. You can physically be in the right place, but never reclaim anything because your mind is elsewhere or clouded. Just because you are here today at church, or you're watching online, or you're listening to the podcast, just because you're doing that doesn't mean something's going to change. Just because you're present doesn't mean God goes, oh, they made it, blessings. That's not the way it goes. You actually have to absorb this stuff, let it occupy your mind to affect your actions and how you treat people. Your actions, but even so, and how you can know it's kind of working, your actions are going to confuse the logic of this world. And Paul points this out in Acts 20:35. He says, in everything I did, I showed you that by this kind of hard work, we must help the weak, remembering the words the Lord Jesus himself said, it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. Now that's confusing to the world because we think it's better to gain. It's better to hold. It's better to build empires here on earth to get more. He's saying just the opposite. It's confusing. If you truly understand, and God's truly up there, you'll understand it's more blessed to give than it is to receive. That's why we have action groups. Action groups is the big service project we do every year, and there's a reason why we call it action groups. Because too often, churches come together, and we discuss, and we talk, and we preach, and do all these great things, and then we don't do anything. Do nothing with it. So we call it action groups, meaning that if you're joining this group, action is required. It's in the title. If you come and don't have action, you're going to be super awkward in the corner just standing by yourself because everybody else is going to be working, putting into practice the things that we have learned on Sundays. Our efforts on Sundays would be meaningless if it doesn't change how we treat our community. The next thing is adversity. Because you are going to be different, you will get pushback. Humans typically reject what they don't understand, and they're not going to understand you, especially if they've known you before Christ. and even to extremes. In John, in the Gospel of John, it points this out. John 15:19, it says, "If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you." Back then, they were talking about competing gods that justified lifestyles. Now, just remove the competing gods. Now it's just lifestyles. And it's about serving ourselves. We truly have become our own gods. Your presence alone is going to challenge and illuminate selfishness that exists in the people around you. It's going to challenge and illuminate your own selfishness. There was a meme, I'm sure you saw it, the Bernie meme that's been going around in his mittens. Hannah was so kind to create one for us. And she put it on social media if you saw it, and it said, "The early friend waiting on the late friend at Village Heights," right? That's what it looks like. I told her that she should say, "The greedy person," when we talk about audacious generosity, because that's what it looks like. Because greed is selfishness. And it never fails. When someone struggles with greed, and we start talking about not just generosity, but audacious generosity, I don't like that. That doesn't feel good to me. You see, adversity wants you to get with the flow. And the flow of this world is selfish. It is selfishness. The natural path to take of least resistance is always selfishness. So just because there's adversity, we think we're alone, that God has left us. God has not left you. You don't have to survive on your own just because you're receiving resistance. He has always been there. But because you're receiving adversity, because you're facing something, now you have the opportunity to show that God is above and truly in control, regardless of the garbage that surrounds us. The last one is anxiety. That's something you're going to experience is anxiety. Anything that change, anybody not struggle with anxiety? If you raise your hand, you are a liar, okay? That's not sin right now, even at home. Don't sin right now if you're listening online. If you experience change, you've had anxiety, new ways of leaving comfort zone causes anxiety. And it's possible to be in a comfortable and destruction because that's what's familiar. That's what's so confusing about some people, how they're always returning to destruction in their life. That thing that's constantly hurting them. They know it's hurting them. Everybody else sees that it's hurting them because it's familiar. Because it's familiar, they know it. It's actually comfortable to them. So we all have a nervous system. And when your nervous system gets out of whack, it brings anxiety. Now, sometimes this is a good thing because when a bear shows up in front of you, the nervous system kicks in, and it's like, all right, fight or flight. What are we going to do? We're going to fight this bear, or are we going to run? How is this going to work? When you see a car careening your way, you're like, fight or flight. What am I going to do? Got to do something. And it's good. It protects us. It keeps us safe because you know what's going to make you healthy or unhealthy. When that nervous system is flooded with those chemicals, it causes anxiousness. It causes panic. When you're not monitoring what's going in and out of your head and what's taking domain, you tend to get to a place where it's so poisoned and there's so much garbage, you don't know what healthy is. And so when you're faced with a situation that you got to fight or flight, what are we going to do? You don't even know what direction to go because you have no baseline of what healthy even is. So you end up acting erratically. Every life's occurrence ends up giving you anxiety. You ever wondered why that little thing that happens during the day, it just all of a sudden you just this flood of anxiety and you're like, what? How did this even come about? It's not that little thing. It's attached to something else bigger in your life that you haven't dealt with. You're letting something occupy your mind that you never should have let there. Right. So if we have a nervous system, it makes sense that we should also have a peace system, something that we do to counteract, a way to balance yourself out with peace. And physically, and we do this with medical help, and that's very good. Go get counseling. Go get help. Go get wisdom. Go get guidance from others. But we tend to neglect an important part of ourselves, and that's our soul. That affects every part of us. So we need a peace system for our spiritual health, a baseline to always come back to. We must include God as a crucial step in dealing with all of our anxiety. In fact, He promises that if we do this, He will not let us drown in our anxiety and drown in our worry. In Philippians 4:6-7, it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, But in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Notice what Paul doesn't say. He does not say, do not feel anxious. He's not asking you to do the impossible. Because sometimes you can't ignore feelings. They're going to be there regardless of what you know is right or wrong. So he's saying, don't worry about the feeling. Do not be anxious about anything. And he's also saying, don't worry about sorting it out. Like I said earlier, don't worry about, oh, I can give this to God, but I'm going to hold on to this one because that's my responsibility. No. Don't worry about sorting it out. Don't worry about the feelings that you have, trying to sort those out. Give it all. Don't be anxious about anything. The creator of the universe is with you. Don't be anxious. And that's how we know what happens next is what he says in verse 7. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. That's where you find crazy Christians. It's those Christians that you think that they've lost a screw or a wire has been disconnected because they are in the midst of chaos and pain, yet they're smiling and joyful. Sometimes they could be crazy. I'm not going to lie about that. But a lot of the time, it's because they have the right thoughts up here. They are focused on the right things. The God of the universe occupies up here, so destruction doesn't happen out here. Smiling in the midst of it all. Circumstance does not dictate what's happening up here. We don't let it, because my God that occupies here dictates how I'm going to react to what's out there. When we let the circumstances occupy and dictate what we think about God and how it changes our view of God, it ends up being a God that doesn't exist, a God that's limited, a God that serves something else. I serve a God that's limitless. I serve a God that's all-knowing and is the creator of everything. So there's no circumstance on this earth that he is not prepared for. In fact, he created the platform for any circumstance. He created the earth. He made it all. So how could he not be prepared for what comes next? Your feelings would have you live in fear, but your king would have you live in freedom. Freedom in Christ comes by not being anxious about anything. Because why worry when the Creator who loves you is arranging your future? So, I will give this caveat. To be honest, not be illogical, it is possible. It is possible to try and navigate this life without God. And it's those instances where you get frustrated, like, they don't know God, they spit in God's face, but they're successful and they have all these things that I want. It's possible. It's possible to let your identity, humanity, adversity, anxiety from this be dictated by this world on its terms. But if you do that, you will only produce average. Only produce average. Problem is, Christ didn't pay the price he did for average. He died so that you may be royalty, heirs to the King, not subject to creation, but creation subject to you, to be God's special possession, not to settle for average. Do not settle for average. Do not go, I just made it. I just got to the finish line. I got to be selfish. Because the reward of giving a life to God will be better and be so much more than you could ever fathom on your own. Always. Treat this temple in its true form as an heir to the King. Because royalty is not garbage. Royalty doesn't live in garbage. So before God will begin to reclaim your life, before he will recycle your past, present, and future garbage into something great, you need to take out the trash in your mind. Stop letting the garbage that the world put there remain. Stop letting the pollution of the enemy remain. God could change everything you see around you. He could turn all the garbage around your life into something beautiful, but you would never know what you're looking at until you take out the trash up here. That's why when you see families that just bicker and fight and take it to the very end, to almost the end of destruction, and then they get to the very bottom and they go, I didn't realize how good I had it. I didn't realize how much of a blessing you were to my life. I didn't realize how special my kids were to me because they were so clouded, so much garbage up here, they couldn't see the beautiful things that God had given them. Don't let that happen. You got to clean that stuff out. So take out the garbage. Start locking the door to any future negative thoughts. You, a prince or princess of the king, is too valuable to let the riffraff in and take residence. Reclaiming your lives starts in your mind and will continue out everywhere else. So guys, my challenge to you this week, evaluate what you're consuming. Evaluate the TV shows, the amount of social media you look at, who you're looking at on social media. What are you taking in? The neighbors that you talk to, the friends that you have, the gossip you join in on. Take it all in. Realize how, look at them, say, does that glorify God? I guarantee you the problems that you're having in your own life, you can draw a direct line to those. Well, I believed in this, I indulged in that, so I have this problem. Begin to cut those things off, remove that trash out of your mind, and I guarantee you, you will begin to see yourself and everything around you different. You will become such a catalyst. People will look at you and go, I don't know what you got or what you did over the break, over the pandemic, but I want it. I want that because you look like you are free. So you get freedom, and then you get to share that freedom with others. Guys, it's going to hurt. I'm not going to lie. It's going to hurt. Rip that Band-Aid off. Get the poison out of you. Let's pray. Lord, thank you so much that you care so much about us. That it's not just that you saved us, but Lord, you're there with us constantly. And when we worship you, when we use the power of worship, you come rushing in with a flood of peace. So right now, God, I pray for the courage. I pray that we all have the courage to confront ourselves, to see what we're consuming and what we've let occupy our mind, what garbage that we let the world put there, and what poison we let the enemy put there, and we begin to take out the trash. And Lord, I pray that we would have the clarity that when there is a thought that won't leave us alone, that keeps tearing us down, that we would rely on you and give it to you, so you can take it captive and break it or take it out or whatever you have to do with it, God. So whatever that is, whatever that process is, give us the courage to do that. Because, Lord, starting today, we are reclaiming our minds so that we can reclaim our lives, the life that you want for us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.